What's up, guys? Welcome to Wasted Space, and we're back in Space Engineers, back with the next-gen carrier, sort of. Basically, I've decided to do something for the next-gen carrier rather than actually the next-gen carrier itself, because they've recently, on Thursday, fixed sensor ownership recognition, so it now works with small and large ships as well, which is amazing, and I wanted to do something with that. So what I've got in front of me here is what I'm calling the Leviathan Missile Boat. And basically this is designed to go alongside those two destroyer engine nacelles from my last video as part of the spearhead of the attack, and this is what's going to provide the real heavy guns. So as usual, I'll jump straight in and demonstrate what I'm talking about, but the easiest way to demonstrate this one is not actually to get in it, is to show you from outside. So if I just get one of these cannonballs here as a useful demonstration tool, and I'm going to just throw it alongside the side of the ship here, you should be able to see that as soon as it gets into a position where it's within sensor range, despite the fact that it was reasonably quick, these turrets around the side, which are the whole point of this craft, will lock on and track and take it out, whatever it may be. So yeah, that one's already ruined. Excuse me. So as you can see, the sides of this craft and the top and bottom are covered with these missile racks, all completely automated tracking and capable of tracking objects up to about, I don't know, 35-40 meters a second. You know, they really do track quite quickly. So you can throw stuff past here and they will deal with it. Even if they only get a couple of shots on, obviously they not only track quite quickly, but also shoot quite a lot of rockets at once. So that's the main deal with this. That and the turrets it carries is going to be the sort of spearhead of the assault. This is the real heavy guns. It gets in, delivers the broadsides. So let me give you a quick tour of the insides while I'm at it. This is the front end. So in here, these are two temporary missiles. Basically, the whole thing has been connected together and conveyed up. And I intend to put two projector missile suites in this room here, right on the front, that you can launch ahead of the attack. But I haven't quite got round to doing that yet. So if I turn off the mirroring and cut through here, you can see that's where the conveyor network is. So it's in a position where I'm ready to sort of connect this up, start the welding up here, but haven't quite got around to doing that because the real deal with this, of course, was those outside turrets. But coming further through, next up we have the actual sort of pilot room. So this is where people would pilot the drone craft as well as the timers are located. We've also got access up into the conveyor network up here should you need it. And we have these two antennae. Now they're both off at the moment, but the idea with these is one is set to 5,000 meters and one is set to 50,000 meters. So the pilots have a very easy and quick way of switching between complete stealth, local transmission, and then long-range transmission, depending on which they pick. Now, probably my favourite room on the whole thing, this is our reactor and gravity shield room, and I decided I always put a gravity shield on the ships that I make to make ore weapons just not worth it. Yeah, you're completely safe with one of these aboard, especially if someone's using mass-generated rockets as well that leave the mass on. Another big mistake, this will deal with it. But I figured I'd make it look kind of cool, so just stuck some green lights in there and kind of prettied it up so it looks like a shield network almost, reactors around the side. Then next room is our cargo. So just come in here, we got two large cargo containers each side, again all connected up. And then finally on the back will be where you have your large hangar bay. And it did dawn on me that I don't actually have any fighter designs. Like this hangar bay is a good size for a small fighter, you know, a decent sized small fighter. So if I grab the Vulture out, this fits in here quite nicely. However, I haven't got a fighter to put in there, so that's something else I need to build. That's eventually going to be the fighter bay. And then obviously outside has got the minigun turrets for taking down enemy rockets, and we've got all of those massive flip barrage turrets. So if I come round, jump back into the seat, we'll go and actually do a demonstration of this thing in action against a few enemy craft I've lined up. So come around through the front, as that's the quickest way, and into the heavy armoured pilot area, and we can jump into the pilot seat. So let's line the camera up, and as you can see, we've got some enemies sighted ahead, and thanks to the new camera fix, we can zoom in and just line ourselves up for our attack. So we're going to go for a shot on this one down here, and then we're going to try and like kind of drive between them, I think. So what we're going to do is start accelerating straight at this ship, have dampers off, and I'll probably skip this forward, but the idea is we're going to drive forward until we get to about 1,000 meters. accelerate up, and that's the point at which we're going to unleash our 2 primary weapons out the front, and then we're going to drive in for the broadsides to help finish things off. And one thing I have forgotten to do is turn the turrets on, so just jump in. They were going to interfere with the first demonstration, shoot things out, so if I go and turn our turrets on, they'll help shoot down the enemy rockets. Wish there was some way you could make them only shoot down rockets, because that's the main purpose of them on this craft, but they'll also do a bit of damage as well. So just coming into 1,000 meters now, so about sort of time where we can let off the throttle so that we get a nice stable speed, and then I can press 5 to start the timer on our front rockets. And we are pretty much done in this view now. They should be launching out the front. You can see our turrets have already started shooting at the enemy, and there's our rockets coming out nice and cleanly. Let's go back into that camera quickly, watch them impact, and at the same time we can start to turn away ourselves. Because of course we don't want to ram them, we want to destroy them. So nice, the initial impacts were good, did some nice early damage on the first of the red craft. Let's get out of this camera view. Sorry about my voice, by the way, for some reason I've got a massive frog in my throat. Husky style today, it seems. Maybe I'll take a sip. So yeah, one complaint, obviously, and one flaw I would say, is still that the sensors are not capable of doing anything more than the 50-meter range. If anyone's got a mod, any sort of solution to that, please let me know. I would absolutely love it. But let's come in for the broadside. We're taking some damage on the front, I can see there, but this thing is very heavily armoured, so that shouldn't cause us too much of an issue. We just need to get ourselves into a position where as many of our guns can come to bear as possible. So let's try and drive right down the centre here. Apologies for the FPS as well. Obviously, something like this does cause some FPS troubles, but this looks like we should be good. Might just ram them a little bit. But the broadsides have begun. So as you can see, it's raining damage down on hopefully all 3 crafts now. Oh, and it's almost completely locked up. This is a little bit too much for Space Engineers as it currently stands. Looking forward to that DirectX 11 update as well. Hopefully we'll get that, given that Medieval Engineers is in DirectX 11. I'll switch to some footage to give you some ideas of what's going on here. But as you can see, all the broadsides were opening fire. Seems it's come back to life, and we are raining down maximum destruction on all those craft. We've taken relatively minimal damage ourselves, and we're ready to come around for a second attack. So let me swoop into another world where I can show you just quickly how I've put all this stuff together. So now in the world where I made all that, and this is basically the early version of what's inside the sides of that ship. So you can see it's got a twin sort of rotor gimbal setup, so we've got horizontal and vertical axes, and then we've got some sensors to help control everything. And on the final design, these row here are moved 1 row forward, so the bottom and top are moved to be level with these, and then I've just filled in front of the sensors with heavy armor like this, so that the sensors are nice and safe and protected, and they're very much the last thing to get destroyed in this setup. But if I just get another one of these cannonballs out, no, that's not a cannonball, that's a vulture. Where's the cannonballs? And turn on the sensor fields like this, you can get an idea of how the sensors have been set up to build some quadrants. So it can see left, right, up and down, and by doing those, we've built these little sort of crosshair of areas. So up here is going to activate the top and the left sensor. Top and the right sensor, sorry, and it's going to turn it. Now it's in the bottom sensors field instead. And then there's this small overlap in the center which helps it actually focus on something. So if I go in and show you how the sensors are set up. We have an up, left, down and right sensor, and if I turn the UI on, you can see they're laid out as you would expect. And they are all tied up to gyros on the back, so we have an up, down, left and right gyro as well, and they make it move in that direction. And basically you have the sensors set up so that, for example, this up sensor has nothing behind it because you don't want the turret to look behind it, that's irrelevant, and then all the other ones are maxed except for the bottom. And the bottom, you just want it up enough that you've got a little bit of an overlap with the down sensor here, which will have the same, but with that little bit of an overlap on the top field. And it's the same with the left and the right. And then all of these are linked to those gyros, so that it'll just turn it on and off. And the reason you have that small overlap in the center here is so that at some point, both the up and the down sensors are active at the same time. And that means that both the up and the down gyros are active at the same time, and that's what makes it stop instead of continuing going and continuing moving in that direction. Now, I sort of pointed out one slight flaw with this setup, other than the 50-meter thing, which obviously I can't help, is that the fire sensor is in the middle here, which is where it needs to be. This is the one that actually tells it to shoot. And you need these 4 sensors set up pretty much in this sort of positioning, otherwise it doesn't work particularly well as far as the tracking is concerned. And what it meant is that there's a bit of a dead zone in the center, whereas if you get a small enough object, it can sit in the middle and activate it but not actually get destroyed. So there you go, I've managed to, despite getting hit myself, I've managed to put it in the right place. However, that's obviously a very, very small thing I'm putting there. Maybe you have a drone that small, but an actual sort of any sort of decent sized ship is just, it's too big for that. So I'll drop this down. That's not going to end up in a dead zone. It's just going to get, obliterated, as you can see. So these could be very effective both against, like I demonstrated, as a kind of barrage thing for assaulting bases or ships, but also very good against fighters. You hang around the side of a craft with these fitted, and even if you're traveling quite quickly, you can see how fast those things track. And if I could get sensors that actually had a bit more range, this thing would be vicious. So there you go, guys. It gives you a vague idea of how to put one of these together if you fancy doing so. I'll put this up on the workshop as usual. The only other thing you need to take into account is these are the gyros on the back. These gyros need to be on this center bit because they're the up and down ones. These have to be on the sides because otherwise they'll angle like these and what's left and right will change a little bit. So these need to be on the side bits to keep it nice and stable. It knows where left and right is. And that's how you end up with something that is this sort of responsive to things being put down and how fast it's tracking. The only other thing you have to do is make sure the rotors are turned off, and I've obviously set some limits so that it doesn't turn too far left and right, although in this version, as you can see, the limits aren't quite right. This is a slightly earlier version of it. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching, guys. I hope you found this an interesting idea. I'm certainly very, very pleased that the sensors thing's now sorted. All of my old designs with the sensors on them that used to have some flaws to do with what they targeted, all of that is sorted now, which is awesome. And I think this kind of functions really nicely. I just wish I could get the longer range thing going. So if you've got any ideas for that, please hit me up in the comments below. I'm going to make an announcement as far as the mini golf thing is concerned on Tuesday. I'm running the vote for a tiny bit longer. And otherwise, if you enjoyed this, found it interesting at all, please hit like, please hit subscribe, really helps me and the channel out. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time.